James Green, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Always appreciate talking about wrestling, life, and obviously how wrestling got us here.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's like, just looking at your career, just a staple in at the 70 kg spot, 4-time All-American, but most recently, you've gone into the coaching ranks, which is took me by surprise because I watched you at the Rudis card. You beat Zain 4-0. You're looking great, and next thing I know, you're the development coach. How did that all come about?
Man, just timing and coincidence. Honestly, I want to try and be as open as possible about the whole situation. And honestly, it's again, like I could say, just timing and coincidence and freak kind of, I would say, accident. I don't know, but for the past since about 2017, I've been dealing with my right hip. I had surgery on it, and I had 2 bone spurs. Got those things shaved down, but my hip was such in bad shape. I tore my labrum, 2 bone spurs, and by the time I actually found out what was going on with my hip, I had no cartilage, which is pretty much a big thing. So I don't even know how long prior to that I was wrestling like that. It was just always one of those, mental toughness kind of things like, something's going on. It bothers me. Let me get in a rehab. And there were good days, bad days, things that come with the sport. But I had surgery, and up until COVID, things were looking good as far as I'd go in and get my checkup. And what they did was give me 2 microfractures to try and recreate that cartilage. And things were looking pretty good as far as the cartilage started coming back and trying to take form again. And anyway, fast forward, we're to this Rudis event, and throughout this whole time, there's always the good days, the bad days. But I'm literally warming up, getting ready to wrestle Zain, and in the back of the mats, I kind of slip or whatever, take a little misstep, and I jammed up my right hip. And it kind of was one of those things like, this is, it feels a little worse than what I typically do. And I mean, honestly, you go back and look at the match, and no disrespect, Zane's a good competitor, but I couldn't move like I wanted to. I held the center of the mat, kind of just, kept my eyes on him, just because I couldn't really move side to side. And it was just feeling a little weird. So anyway, I wrestled, get through the match, and I got to get my hip checked out again. This is I every year I get my hip checked out, and typically they tell me, "Oh, it's looking good. Stick to your rehab." So, I went out to Vail where I got my surgery. I get my hip checked out, and unfortunately, I was back to bone on bone. So it was just like, man, it hurts. And meanwhile, again, I skipped it, but back in Thanksgiving, USA Wrestling had mentioned, hey, we think you'd be great for this position. So that was always on the table. But I obviously was like, I'm going to be competing.
Was that an offer then? So you could have taken it then in the fall?
It was just like on the table, like, think about it. So, and this is in the fall, obviously. So I get all the way to the Rudis card, which is in March.
Yeah.
So I was like, content on being this competitor, and I'm going to compete. So that happens. And then I go out to Vail, and they're like, you're back to bone on bone. So I'm like, man, well, that sucks because I want to compete. And I've been obviously wrestling like this for a long time. I know how it feels. I know what it takes to, get to that world championship level. And even wrestling Zain, you kind of think, I could go to world team trials or I could go to world championships. I slip like that. I can't just be wrestling. That was one match. You gotta put together 4 or 5 matches, or a best 2 out of 3. So it's not like I can't say I can't wrestle because of my hip. So I don't want to set myself up for anything like that. So it was, again, great timing. And once I realized that I was back to bone on bone, I actually ended up getting my left hip checked out, and that's kind of heading in that direction. So it's like, man, you think about the quality of life, and I want to be an active coach. So all those things into considerations is like a great time. I didn't go to trials and I didn't get beat. No one beat me for the spot. No one, I can go out on my own accord. And as a competitor, bad leg or not, I'm always going to think that I could, wrestle and be that
Mm-hmm.
guy. So yeah, it was just a great opportunity, great timing. The opening of the position, and yeah, I went ahead and talked to the missus and talked to people around me, and yeah, we just figured this was definitely one of the better options for myself. And yeah, I can try and take care of my body and see what kind of routes open up, and who knows what happens in a couple of years. Maybe they figure something out where I'm only 29. I'm not really trying to get a whole hip replacement yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So were you good until that little misstep at the Rudis card, and that caused it?
Yes, I was on it was actually, you could say a blessing, because again, I was wrestling like that unknowingly. So it's not like I just slipped and, oh, I'm bone on bone. Like, I was actually bone on bone for a while.
Got
Again,
it.
I'm just thinking that, oh, this is just how it's gonna feel. I'm gonna be rehabbing, and obviously it's not there's so I wrestled in Turkey, you have your weight cut, your travel, your uh the wrestling, and with all that comes my problem as far as what's going on with my hip, as far as the once that gets inflamed, and then I'm always coming back and I got to be off the mat. I'm like, I can't wrestle right now. I can't. This thing is bothering me. So yeah,
Well,
I
kudos for
was
you for
good, but I
not.
wasn't good.
I was gonna say kudos for you for not taking the job in the follow, because like that job doesn't open up that often. Like there's maybe only been
Right,
four or
right,
five
right.
guys who've done that job ever.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of things, and you even just not that job, but you see the transfer portal, but you don't see the coaching transfer portal, or how many people are in and out, or it's things like this don't come along very often. So again, it's a great opportunity, and again, like I said, who knows, whatever technology or whatever, who knows if I feel good. It's never off the table, but this opportunity definitely presented itself, and yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with my career, happy with the opportunity, and I'm still involved with wrestling. There's a lot more things to worry about in life, and I just had to decide if I want to coach or if I want to wrestle. So
Right,
it's,
right.
it's no biggie.
Well, it's cool because that the other alternative would have been college coaching, I'm guessing, and I've heard you say you've thought about that, but and this job is like all you're doing is just coaching. You don't have to worry about recruiting. You don't have to worry about, I don't know if you have to do any fundraising, but like college coaching, so much of that is outside the room,
Yeah,
compared to.
yeah. I mean, we have the EAP program here. Um, But again, it's not the same kind of recruiting. A lot of the kids that want to be a part of it, they want to be here. So, a lot of times they'll reach out to me, or they'll reach out to USA Wrestling, or they'll tell their coach, so it's not like I'm competing against the schools, other
Mhm.
schools. So, yeah, it's definitely a different kind of role. And I still get to be in the room, get to get the best, kids that the country has to offer that want to take it to the next level. And, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Dude, it's so cool because think about just the sheer number of overseas trips you've taken as a member of Team USA. I mean,
Oh
six
man,
world teams, but I mean, we're talking probably 30, 40 different trips over your lifetime, would you say?
man, I have. So I have. I think I looked the other day, and I have like over 300, 400,000 United miles, and that's just with United. There's some,
Whoa.
there's some. We take trips with Delta or some other airlines, but yeah, I've been overseas quite a lot. So, I can relate to these up and coming guys that want to take that journey, and I could kind of lead them and guide them that way. And hopefully, as they make these teams, these cadets, these junior teams, they stick around with wrestling. And yeah, we'll be seeing them on the senior world teams soon.
Man. And those young guys now are so good. It's like,
Man,
it's unbelievable to watch some of these guys. It's like, I have I have Angel Cejudo on the mind. He was just on this week, and he coaches Eric Larkin's son, Kyler Larkin, and like that kid's so fun to watch. And then you got the great Bo Bassett doesn't even make the team. That's how deep we are. It's like freaking
Right.
crazy. And you get to work with these guys. So how does that work? Like, do they live there all summer? They come out 2 weeks before the Worlds? Like, what's the schedule for like that cadet team?
So we actually have, some of those guys had the option once they made the team if they want to go to Pan Am championships, or just come to camp. So we have 2 camps here. We actually have one coming up June 19th and 25th. That's an optional one. And then obviously as we get closer to the World Championships, we'd like to get those guys out here in July prior to taking off. So usually, 5 days for each camp. And that's just the team. It's summer's busy, flights are expensive. And we just want to give them the opportunity to get here and to see the training center, to see what it's like, to get that experience of how the seniors do it. They get the training camp, they get to go home, kind of get ready to hit the road, go overseas, get a little acclimation camp in, and then compete and bring back some medals. So
Man,
we'll get those guys out here those 2 times, and some people they can if they're in driving distance or if they have the time, they can get in on some of the other camps when we have available spots. So we just build those relationships and try and give them the most opportunities as possible.
and are you doing the same thing for the 17 and under team, the quote unquote junior team?
Yeah. So this first camp was primarily supposed to be for national team, and then when those as we go through the numbers and the people that can make it can't, we have those open beds and we try and get out to those younger guys. So U17, U20 guys, and invite them out if they can. So we'll same kind of scenario as far as the five days here, getting on campus, and getting to see what they're what they're made of.
That's awesome, man. For those kids, it must just be crazy experience to come out there and roll around together. And like you said, I'm sure there's always some senior guys hanging out there, and got to be just an amazing experience. Talk to us.
Man, it's like,
Go for it. Yeah.
sorry to cut you off. It's like you were saying, these kids, they're so young and so good at early age. My first time at the Olympic Training Center wasn't until I was in college. So,
Wow.
you got these guys, they're just freshmen in high school or in high school, and they're getting to be, rubbing shoulders with the best guys in the world, Olympic champions, world champions. So that's an amazing experience in itself. So
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just so fun to watch these guys, and like as a fan, you get the enjoyment out of watching high schoolers like that you do watching D1. They're that good. So it's so fun and just so promising, because after 2024, I'm sure we're going to see a big changeover on Team USA, right? And so all these young guys
right.
are going to be next up.
Yeah, it's definitely we'll see a change of era and change of the guard. Just myself, I've retired, so we're going obviously a new 70-kilo guys coming in, and then you got we got the Yannis of the world, Dayton's coming in. So it's always a great time to be a part of USA Wrestling, because you look back to where we had our down years and to where we are now, that we're in good hands.
And you've been a part of the whole resurgence. You think about 2017, the team title, but I want to go back to 2015. World Championships are in the US of A, Vegas, and your bracket that year was ridiculous. Like, you look at the names in that 2015 World Championship bracket, it was Ghazi Madametov, I think. Yazdani was there, which crazy. He used to be that small.
Crazy, yeah.
Tell me about your experience of the first World Championships.
Well, just making the team, that's a story within itself.
Who'd you have to beat to get on that year?
I had to beat Marable, but I had to wrestle in Fargo with the whole fiasco and going to arbitration and whatnot. But
oh, you did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he didn't go to the trials or whatever, because he got hurt. So that I'm thinking I'm on the team, but I'm not on the team. Family's thinking I'm on the team. Still had to make the team. Yeah, nerves are all over the place. But I was catching my stride just coming off the college career. I didn't get the national title like I want, but I was still hungry. So to get on the team in 2015 and have the opportunity to wrestle in front of friends and family, who don't get to get on the trips as much was, it was like I got to get there. And then, like you're saying, you look at the bracket, not then, but you had Ghazi Magmedov. He was a, what, 2-time world champ? I think so. Yazdani, world Olympic champ. And then who it was Ghazi at that weight? He's a world champ now. So, I there were some good guys in the bracket, and I was just happy to be there. I'm like, man, if I'm in the bracket, I got a chance, to get there. And I made it to the semis and wrestled Yazdani. I lost there. It was great. Can't believe that he was that size. Shoot. He made me better, honestly, because since then I started to develop my underhook and wanted to get better in there. So, yeah, that was the beginning of the run for myself. And yeah, I'll never forget it. I got a nice little picture up of me after I took my bronze, kind of walking in the tunnel, and then I had the people that came to watch me wrestle there right in the frame. Got the we had JG or JB JG shirts that year, so you could see everybody. It's a nice picture, and that'll always be, have a place in my heart.
Definitely. Now, did Yazdani have that same kind of pace back then that he does now?
Yeah, he was still growing though, so I don't think it was as high as a pace as it was. He was like, it was still growing. As he was growing, his pace was growing. But yeah, he was really good. He's really good.
Yeah. And then I mean, just to have that in the front of the home crowd, you got, USA Wrestling is on the come up. I think JB won that year, Snyder won. You get a medal. And then 2016, that hurt a lot of fans, watching JB, and, there was some highlights, but there was also a lot of heartache just, with what went on in 2016 for a lot of people. But then 2017, you guys go to Paris and win the whole damn thing. I mean, when the energy in that arena for Snyder Sadulayev, what was it like for you?
Oh man, well, unfortunately I had lost, so I took second. But still, we're in the hunt, so you're excited. This is coming down, to one of the two best wrestlers in the history of sport. So we're in the back. We can't be on the floor, but they got the TVs up. We're all watching the TV, and it's coming down to that last couple seconds, and the TVs go out. So we ended up having to run all the way to the entrance of kind of the arena to watch those final seconds, which even made it more exciting. And as Snyder's winning, we're, jumping up and down. We got it locked up. He won. We won. USA's in the best place it's been in years. So it was amazing to be a part of. And yeah, again, every six, I've been on 6 teams, but I've only medaled twice. But each World Championships, I'll always remember it. Always have a spot in my heart. From the wrestling, from the off the mat adventures and sightseeing, and just the family and friends, and obviously the connections I've made. I'm always going to remember those things.
Now, when you're at something like that, I can only imagine how close everyone feels, being together in the camp, traveling, and it's like a family. So you guys, your family, your brotherhood's watching this match. Is Team Russia right next to you watching their match, or are they off doing their thing as this Snyder Sadulayev match is happening?
Well, a lot of those countries, because we're over in those European countries, they travel well. So they had a great, following in the stands. And obviously Iran is probably one of the best well-traveled countries. Yeah. So just that atmosphere alone, a lot of the thing about, yes, we're cheering for USA versus Russia, but like Iran, and the Russian fans, they just want to see good wrestling.
Right.
So just across the board, I feel like everyone, the excitement in the building alone was, it was through the roof. And yeah, Russia was in the stands, they're going crazy, but at the same time they appreciate the good wrestling. So
yeah. But like, was the Team Russia, like the Russian guys in the warm-up area watching on the same TV that Team USA was? Like with you guys?
Some of them were back there, but I definitely think we had the bigger group back there watching. So
nice. Yeah, that was that's one of those moments that you remember where you were when
Right.
that one happened. And it's just crazy. And like you think about, I feel like every summer when USA goes to the Worlds, whether it's the cadets, the juniors, or the seniors, like day one, day two, like we medal at every weight. And then somehow every time, like Iran or freaking Russia sneaks in there and wins it. And like I'd like to know how many times we've gotten second at those events, but you just think how lucky we were to win that, because we've had great teams since then and we still haven't gotten back on top. It's just like, what a special moment, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's like the NCAA tournament. It's like something, that backside of wrestling that you don't really kind of pay attention to, but you're like, dang, where are these points coming from?
Right.
And yeah, they find themselves, back in the race. But definitely, we're right there, and I think this year we returning 7 medals and adding more depth to the field. So
no
we'll
Russia.
be right there again.
We should take this thing, right? I mean,
yeah,
I'd like to do it with Russia there, but if they're not going to be there, so be it. Sorry.
Right.
So you talked a little bit about, the tournaments hold a special place in your heart, but also some of the travel. I was just looking at some of the countries you've been to. It's like you're like a world traveler, man. I mean, I know you went to Russia once. Does any one trip stand out in terms of just like the total experience of like off the mat and on the mat for you, whether it was like Russia and Ukraine?
Man, it's we always talk about this with the wrestling world because it's such a bigger sport and they have a bigger following kind of in those countries like Iran and Russia. So when we go over there, the reception and the hospitality that we receive it's hard to give that back over here, right? Obviously because we're not the football players or the basketball players, so we can't lay out the red carpet, but we try our best. But between Russia and Iran, and I've been to Iran one time and for the World Cup, and that was just amazing. Like the fans, the hospitality, the arena, they have the best crowds, and not me, but just seeing how people respect and admire Jordan, it's like, wow.
That's real in Iran, huh?
Yeah, it's you wouldn't think it would be like that, but it's amazing just to see that, and rightfully so. So one of the best wrestlers in the world,
no
and
question,
the history of the sport. So,
but at that World Cup though, that's when Taylor pinned Yazdani, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's when it kind of started, the rivalry. So Iran's been looking to get that back for a long time, but man, it's hard to pick. Like I said, I've gone to a lot of I've got the Alliance tournament where they host us, they show us around the city, and even when the wrestling starts, the whole arena is packed from the beginning to the end of the tournament. So you got that, then they're taking you out to dinner, giving you good meals. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat that experience. And, you just wish you could bring some other non-wrestling people just to see it. And I think, Snyder, he did his little trip over there and they documented just how it is. And those kind of things, those are the experiences that make it worth it.
So when you went to Iran, where are you guys staying at? Just like a traditional hotel? Or are you staying in like military barracks?
So, yeah, which is crazy. We went during that whole kind of like Trump fiasco, the ban, and it wasn't in Tehran, it was in Kermanshah. So we flew into Tehran and we stayed, just in a hotel. And then we took another flight to Kermanshah and it was a hotel which we just stayed at. But, as much as the news and everything, goes on in the world, I never felt any kind of way. I felt like I was in good hands, like I was taken care of. So nothing to worry about there. And it was the people, they treated us very well. So I couldn't complain.
And like you think about all the stuff that goes into getting ready for a tournament in your own country, you have to figure out food situation. You have to cut weight over there. Have you ever had any like really hairy weight cuts that came down to the wire with the travel induced problems, or you've been pretty good there?
No. Yeah. I've never missed weight internationally or competing. So I'm always I got to figure down as you grow, you get older, you talk to people and get the help and you figure it out. So, yeah, I've never had an issue there. You got to, kind of, as far as cutting weight goes, you don't ever really want to go too far from what you're used to anyway, in your diet, just because you're in a new environment. They got different, the way they grow their food or whatever is different from what you're used to. So, you be careful in that regards. But other than that, you bring your snacks. Some guys are, master packers. They bring all the fruits. Somehow, their fruits, vegetables, all that, and they get what they need. As far as getting ready for competition afterwards, it's a free for all. You're not too worried about what you need. But
Man.
yeah, I never had any issues on that part.
And so, like, when you think about that, your incredible career, 6 world teams is got to be up there with some of the most ever. But, in my mind, I always, when I hear the name James Green, I think of the big Nebraska singlet, the big white N on the singlet, and that's what I think about you as. And yeah, I know you were very close with Brian Snyder and obviously Coach Manning. How did the Nebraska recruitment start?
So I back in New Jersey, I never really had a club that I really called my home. I was just kind of going up and down the coast with a good family friend, Bob
Love
Costa.
that. By the way, the film is awesome, and that
Oh
guy
yeah.
seems like a legend. That you carrying the chairs like that? That's like crazy.
Yeah, he's a man.
Yeah.
He's still doing it too. But yeah, he'd always trying to find me just the rooms to get into. I go to Blair, I go to South Plainfield, I go to Bound Brook, and all over the Jersey. And then just one day, I ended up going to Easton, and I think this was about my junior year. So I went to Easton, and Snyder's dad, he's there. He's kind of was still helping out, and he was in the room, and I forget who I wrestled. I wrestled somebody there, and it's practice, so I in the practice was doing my thing, and they're like, "Hey, we got this kid in here. He's pretty good." And I think they ended up reaching out to Bob. And yeah, Nebraska. I at this point I really did not know anything about college wrestling. I didn't, my mom, she's like, "Oh, where are you gonna wrestle? Are you gonna go to school? Are you gonna wrestle?" I had no idea. So I just knew that I knew I didn't want to go to Rutgers, and I just knew I wanted to get out of New Jersey. But yeah, they end up, reaching out and saying that we see what you got to, you got a lot of talent. We know you could be one of the guys. And I was like, I was already sold, because at that point I wasn't really getting recruited. I didn't want to. I took second my junior year. I wasn't, I myself didn't think I was worthy to be this D1 athlete. You're looking at the history of sporting of New Jersey wrestling. You got 2-time, 3-time state champs, and I'm like, man, I can't even win one. So for them to say that they believed I could be a national champ and All-American, Big Ten champ, it was inspiring. So I hit the ground and finally got that state title, and I knew I was going to Nebraska.
So did you fly out there, or they flew out to see you first?
So again, Bob was the guy. He coordinated a lot of, my college visits and meetings. So they ended up actually coming out and to Bob's house, and we just had like Jersey pizza. Bob always, he's like, if you're coming to visit in Jersey, you got to get some pizza. So I had pizza, talked to Snyder and Manning. And then I think Snyder did like a clinic or something at Easton one time. I went there, and that was kind of like the start of it. And I actually remember I went to Super 32 and I had lost in the finals, and Snyder was there, and I'm like, damn, I ain't going to Nebraska no more. So I was like, I don't know, I was real hard on myself about those kind of things. And yeah, but it was a great relationship that started and cultivated, and Snyder's my guy, old Easton native. So
what a cool story. And you think about just a one-time state champ, like that's, anyone who's wrestled knows how hard it is to win state. But like you said, man, these kids now, they're winning like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
It's
crazy.
crazy. So you go out to Nebraska, and what's the culture shock like for you, fall of your freshman year, and you see all those cornfields, and like what was that
Well,
experience?
you know, I guess because the way I grew up and just how you mentioned my story, I was never really home that much just because I knew I had to get out. I had to be in the wrestling room, or I had to be around people that would put me in where I wanted to be. So I was always kind of used to, being away from home, and I had tunnel vision. So I wasn't really worried about where I was at, where where Nebraska was at. And then when, just like you said, you say, oh, you see the cornfields, but then you get to Lincoln, it's a little bit more built up. And then since I had got there in 2011, it's even built up more now. Um, and also, my dad's side of the family, they're from Jamaica. So my grandparents, they have a farm. I spent summers down there. There's no shock of, you know, cornfields or any of that kind of stuff. So I was used to all that, but really had to get, as far as socially, just kind of used to. Honestly, people in Nebraska, they're so nice. You're not used to that in Jersey. Everybody want to know how you are and where your background, your story, and yeah, spend time with you, I guess. But that was just a little bit of the adjustment as far as culturally. And then in the wrestling room, it was like anything. You're not in the high school room anymore. You got to adjust there. Just the timing of wrestling, the different technique and approach to it. It definitely took me a while because there was, the summer bridge there. You're out there taking summer class 5 weeks, and I was just getting my ass kicked for 5 weeks. And I again thought that I made the wrong decision. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what these guys saw in me, but this ain't it.
Man, it's so
So
funny how many guys have been on this show and say that. They're like, even like the great Pat Smith, after his like first semester at Okie State, he called his dad and he's like, we made a terrible mistake. Like, I'm not ready for this. And like everyone thinks
yeah,
that not everyone, but a lot
yeah,
of people think that. So
yeah.
when you're out there, so you All-American for the first time in 2012, did you redshirt or no redshirt?
No red shirt. And again, after that first
Wow.
5 weeks, I'm thinking that I need the red shirt. Actually, that was because at first, as a senior in high school, I'm cocky. I'm gonna be the guy. I don't want a red shirt. I don't need it. I'm gonna be stepping in the lineup. Then I get out there. I'm like, all right, hold on, wait a minute now. Let's take a seat back. Let's take a step back, and yeah, I'm gonna need that red shirt. I'm gonna need that red shirt. So, but ended up the guy that was supposed to start, he ended up getting hurt. So it was like, dang, do we got to pull? They ended up not pulling my red shirt, but sitting down like, hey, you're gonna be the guy. And again, we're at this point where I'm the guy, okay, and I lose like my first 3 matches. I'm like, God damn,
No.
damn, they made the wrong choice again. I knew, almost like that self doubt, but you persevere. And it was like a weekend trip. I think we did a duel, and then we wrestled in the Hershey duels at the time. That might have been the last year for that, but I went out there. I lost the first 3 matches, and I ended up winning like the last one. And I'm like, all right, at least I got one. And yeah, you get back to the room, to the drawing board, stay at it, and have your ups and downs. I ended up navigating my way to All-American somehow, but I was happy with it. So
When did the internal dialogue change for you in terms of the self-doubt and that whole realm?
Well, actually, it was so after the first 5 weeks of the summer bridge program there, I went home and I'm like, still, I had a talk with Brian Snyder, and this was right before I went home. He's like, "Hey, man, when you gonna turn around and start picking it up a little bit, or I guess competing, as he would say." And I'm like, "Man, I'm trying. I'm trying my best to, I feel like, it's not clicking yet." And for some crazy, I don't know, maybe just I literally went home for like a week and a half maybe. And when I came back, things just changed. Like I was getting takedowns, I was scoring on people that I usually didn't score. I do not know how. It was just like maybe the break, moment of clarity. And that's when it just kind of, I mean, I guess I had more confidence. And then, again, build up. I was building up, and then I think we hit an open. I actually won this open, and I beat like a D2 national champ or something. But then when they pulled my actual red shirt and I wrestled in the duels, then I kind of had a little setback. Like, dang, I was just when I thought I was on the right way, and then yeah, I think I went to Vegas. I took third at Vegas, and they actually won my weight class. So I'm like, all right, I'm right there. I'm right there. Just keep plugging away, and confidence started slowly growing.
And when you're there, so 2011, 2012, JB's at the top of his game, and he's just starting to come on. Are you working out with him quite a bit during this time, or not yet?
No, not really. I was just kind of watching. JB back then, you're still at day before weigh-ins, so he's still a little bigger. And then at the time, I was having to lift 4 times a week just to be 157. So I could have been that my freshman year. I wrestled 157, then I ended up wrestling 66 kilos in the summer. So 145, like,
wow, holy smokes.
Yeah. So I was like small. I could have probably wrestled 49 and whatever. But I didn't want to cut weight. So anyway, yeah, I was just watching. We drill here and there, but nothing crazy. But yeah, he was the man. So.
And then he wins gold in 2012, and then and that's when you're kind of starting to come into your own. And so that had to be just a crazy amount of like press and momentum around the program at that time.
Yeah, it was cool to be around. Yeah, he was not only building USA wrestling, but he was building up Nebraska wrestling. This is a guy that, just like we were talking about, state titles. He won 1 state championship, and he's only a 3-time All-American. So he had his ups and downs, and he navigated through all that, and obviously into a world champ, Olympic champ. The buzz is going around Nebraska, and it was great time to be a part of Nebraska wrestling. So
yeah,
it was a good couple years there.
I love the fact that, Nebraska, their in-state wrestling is not the strongest. So they need to go out of state a lot, which is like the hardest thing to do. I mean, so they're consistently going out of state, and Mark Manning's just picking up guys all over. I had the chance to interview Mark Manning for a documentary we just did on Tony Davis, and he was Tony Davis's coach at UNI. And so got to know Mark a little bit, and man, I love his personality. What kind of impact did he have on you? Since Snyder was probably your main guy, but did you work with Manning at all?
Yeah, Manning just knew how to fire you up.
That's it, man. He's the motivator.
Oh man, he goes 100 miles an hour. I don't know if I've seen him on some low energy, but his low energy ain't that low. He still get fired up. So, yeah, man, he just, I don't know. He knows how to get the best out of a lot of guys. Even at those times where you might doubt yourself or not feeling at the best. And just for example, when I'm going through that whole Maribel situation, I thought I was on the world team, and I think I just went to Spain. I won the Spanish Grand Prix tournament in Spain. I came back, and I think at that time they were still deciding if I was going to wrestle, and it was like my first day back in the States, or it might have been my second day. I was sleeping, and Manning's like, "Hey," he called me. He's like, "Hey, where you at?" And I'm like, "I'm at home. I'm in bed." He's like, "You got to get in a room. You're not on a world team yet." And I'm just like, Manning, there's this whole conversation, like 10, 15 minutes, literally on the phone. I'm in my bed. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to get. I feel like I just won this tournament. I'm in a good place. He's like, if you want to be on this world team, you're gonna, come in. We're gonna get some work in. And yeah, I'm in the room, and right. Long story short, I'm on a world team, and those kind of situations are where Manning does a very good job at. He gets you fired up. He gets you where you need to be, and that he'll ride out for you. He'll go to the end of the world for you. So Manning's a very good coach and great motivator.
I love how he's not like a real loud motivator either. I think Tony Davis said something that sticks in my head. He's like, Manning would get behind you, rub your shoulders, and kind of whisper. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is that is his approach, isn't it?
He's like he's definitely got to be. He's like in your. He's a close stalker, I'd say, but he'll get his point across.
So I got to dive into this world team situation in 2015 because I did not know about this. So you go to whatever the process was then, you win the world trials. Do you think you're on the team, no questions asked at this point, or there's going to be a wrestle off later in the summer?
So back when it was going on, I had no idea of the process. So, they're like, because Marable he won the Open, so he was sitting out. And because of that, there's the procedures in place to, if he gets hurt or something happens, as long as he has the doctor's notes, they can push the wrestle off back. So I wrestled through the trials, and me and Slater in the finals. I beat Slater. He was hurt, so at that time, there was actually, he wasn't hurt. My bad. He wasn't hurt because he was supposed to weigh in for the tournament. And if he would have weighed in, he would have been sitting in the best 2 out of 3. I would have wrestled him there in the best 2 out of 3. So because of that, he gets hurt, and the procedure is you're supposed to turn in that, you're supposed to have that doctor work in before that, because then I would know, I wrestled through the tournament. Okay, I'm not going to wrestle him. I'll wrestle him at a later date. So that was the whole process. Like, okay, when are we going to wrestle? Is this in the right timeline to, even happen? Was he in the right? Who's in the wrong? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But yeah, so, I wrestled Slater because I had to wrestle Slater 2 out of 3. So that was the process. Boom. I wrestle him. I'm on the world team. Question mark. Because he still has to go through this whole arbitration where you get the lawyers and they go to trial. They look at all the materials. And
so the wrestle off wasn't guaranteed then. Like there may have been a wrestle off, you may not. Okay, got it.
Right. It wasn't guaranteed because I at that point I was moving as a guy. They took me to Spain, and I wrestled there. I did a couple trips. I was at the training camps. So, I just thought I was this guy. Shoot, my family thought I was on the team. They booked their flights, the hotel for Vegas.
They're going to Vegas. They got family functions planned.
Right. Everything's bought. And I was actually at the training camp here in Colorado Springs, and somebody came up to me and said, "Yep, you're going to be wrestling Marable in Fargo." And I was like, and this is in the middle of the practice. I was just like, okay, all right, I guess so. And even before that, when they said, I was just like, whenever at that time, I'm like, I didn't really care. I'm like, I want to prove to not only myself, but to everyone, like, okay, I'm rightfully supposed to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, man, how long is this going to be dragged out? So, yeah, they finally made the decision that we'd wrestle best 2 out of 3 at Fargo before deciding who would be on the world team. And again, my mom, she already booked her tickets, her flights, and she's like, all right, now you got to do what you got to do.
How do you not let feelings of like resentment and anger bubble up at at like the powers that be when something like that happens? Because you're doing everything that's right. You're getting kind of pulled around, yanked around, and then like you get that news in practice. Are you just totally thrown off your game the rest of the day?
A little bit, but at the same time, I'm a competitor. Like I said before, I'm like, I never beat Marable up until that point. He beat me 2014. He was a guy. He beat me 2 out of 3. He beat me at U.S. Open. So he's already beaten me 3 times. To myself,
so
I
had
had
never
to prove,
beat him. Wow. So this wasn't a shoe-in by any means.
Yeah. So I'm like, to myself, I got to beat this guy. Since 2015, when I made the team, I never lost in the wrestle off. So,
wow.
Yeah, I beat him twice, and then yeah, bronze medal that
That's
year.
a wrap. And that's it for everybody else making the 70 kg weight class up until now. So that's
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
That's how it started. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as we wind down, I have just a couple more rapid fire questions I want to get your thoughts on. 3 questions and we'll wind down. First one is, I love your tweet. Returning medalist sits, random draw for the rest. Tell me about that. Why do you like that approach for choosing the senior team?
Man, because just this past trials was crazy. It's crazy. So we're seeing at this point that we have a lot of depth in the country. Seeds aren't holding up, and they don't matter. The best guy's gonna come through regardless who they gotta wrestle. And I know you wanna sell the final X, approach and have the quote unquote best matchup, but who care? As a competitor, I don't care who I wrestle. I'm gonna get on this team. At least that's the thought, right? Everyone thinking that they have a right to be on the team, so why not? Some people are good off the scale, some people aren't, and yeah, I think also too when you look at the world, UWW or every other tournament that we go to, everything's random draw. So why not implement that into our procedures? Why not have random draw events? Why not another thing USA Wrestling does? Maybe I don't know, put my input on it. But all of for some reason, our events are, scratch weight. I don't know. But everything outside of our world championships, even the World Cup, we get a weight allowance. Everything besides world championships, Olympic championships, Pan Am Games is a plus 2 kilos. So I don't know, things like that.
Yeah. The
that
seating
I
with
feel,
that is tricky because you got Jesse Mendez who's I think he's in high school. Then you're trying to seed Seth Gross. It's how do you seed that tournament? And do you like how the US Open is broken out from the World Trials, which is broken out from Final X? My personal opinion is that there's one too many. I think pull one out, combine Final X into one event. I don't know. Those are just some of my thoughts. Remove either the trials or the US Open and then cut down one of the Final X's. What do you think? Or do you like the 2 Final X's?
yeah, I kind of think back to, I like the approach of US Open champ sits out, then you have a trials. So, you got the US Open champ, so then you take the top 8, they go to trials, whoever wins, then you could do a best 2 out of 3. And again, to go back to my point, you look at the rest of the world, and I always think about this back to 2017. Was it 2017? When I lost to Deacon at the Open. You look at Russian nationals, that's their trials. You go, there's no second chance after that. It's you make the team, you win if we're in Russia, you win the Open, you're on the team. Mm-hmm. So if we want to be, I don't know, you're just giving more opportunity, you're trying to get people seen, I guess. I don't know. But I'd rather it be, at the most 2 events. You got your Open to figure out who sits out, and then you have your trials. You wrestle through the trials, and then you do your best 2 out of 3. That at that same event. I think what year was the last time we did that? Maybe in Wisconsin, was it?
Okay.
Maybe that would have been the last year. Or no, Lincoln, they had a mini tournament and then the best 2 out of 3. Yeah.
Do you
Lincoln.
like the world medalists getting a bye to the finals, or would you remove that?
Yeah.
You like that?
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. What about world team member? Or do you have to be a medalist to get that bye?
Yeah, just a medalist. World team member, no.
Got it. I like that. Yeah, because that's quite a distinction to be. A medalist is heads and tails. Harder than just making the team. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think you're hearing some rumblings about bad fan attendance. What do you expect, man? It's summer's getting here. Mm-hmm. There's so many tournaments. It's hard to follow which one's which. I think we should just scrap the notion of it being a fan event and make it more like the UFC Apex Center, where it's a made-for-TV event with limited seating.
Mm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, Yeah, that's, I mean, taking this job, that's kind of the things I get to learn about. And, with the USA hat off, if I'm looking on the outside in, we just have to involve the kids, honestly, because that's where these parents are now. There's a bunch of other events going on, or that they have to get ready for, or they have to save their money to get to an event. So, why not put us on the same stage with? I wouldn't mind. These kids
That'd be
are
so
excited
cool.
too. Like, yeah, it'd be fun for them. You get just almost like a battle at the ballpark. We had two mats there. You can have your U17, your U20s, whatever on one mat, and then your seniors on the other or whatever. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but I
No, it's
know the parents would like that. The kids would like that. They're tweeting their friends, "Hey, I'm wrestling at the trials next to Jordan Burroughs or David Taylor." So it's cool.
it would be cool to do that actually. It's like the World Trials weekend. On Friday you got the cadets, Saturday you got the juniors, and Sunday it's the seniors. People would
Right.
travel for that, because there's
Yeah.
so much going on. Yeah, man, I like where we're headed here. All right, two quick ones and we'll let you go. I got to ask you about this, man. Your burpee pyramid on the tire. That looks
Oh man,
sinister. How often are you doing that kind of stuff?
that was my first time. Cody Brewer.
With the
He
bad hip? That's crazy.
Oh, right. Cody Brewer. I don't know where he got it from, but he's the one that implemented that into the room. And I always saw when I first got to Virginia Tech, some of those guys they would do it after workouts. And again, just how you said, my bad hip, I'm like, nah, I can't touch that. I gotta keep this thing in good shape. So I don't know. It was just in the midst of, I think we were getting ready for something. I might have been actually getting ready for Turkey. So I'm in that mindset, and I'm like, I got to get the most out of all these workouts, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, and they typically don't do it off a tire. It's like a little smaller thing, but that thing's brutal. It's a great workout though.
Man, I was looking at you like the third session of it, or the third round, like some of those jumps, I could see the pain in your face, man. It's like, dude. And then as the interview's starting, you're telling me about the hip fracture. I'm like, he was doing that with the hip. That's a
Yeah,
whole nother level.
yeah, yeah.
Last question, man, then we'll let you go. I see this everywhere in your social media and even your clothes. Be here now. Just give us your thoughts on what that means to you, and we'll sign off.
Man, I'm big on the mindset aspect, and um, just being mindful of where you are, being present. And I'm I'm really big on that because you can see that
Yep,
present.
present. Yep.
I'm sometimes throughout life or just throughout your day you might find yourself wandering or in conversation, or my wife always tells me like, hey, are you listening? So it's like, yeah, you want to be present in your moment, be aware of what's going on, take it in, because this life isn't guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. So just be mindful, be in that moment, just kind of take that step back, and wherever you are, be present. Look around, kind of be grateful. You know, not, and that's with everything. When it comes down to what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you can remember, what you're feeling in that moment, and yeah, just be here now. Enjoy it. Take it in.
Well said, James Green. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.